So buoys marking the 200-foot limit are part of the equation. Justin Arts is with us tonight from the Sheriff's Marine Patrol to deal with the other side of it, and that is enforcement on the lake. The Sheriff's Marine Patrol gets to be the referees between the public, which has the full right to use the lake because the lake belongs to the public, and the shore owners whose property, both docks, boats, and shoreline can be damaged. One commissioner we have believes that, boy, all we have to do is enforce, and that's the panacea. We don't need that anything more. The association believes that we need markers so the public has a fair notion where the limits are, but we also need enforcement. So with that, Justin, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you, sir. We're actually really excited to see how these buoys kind of turn out, because the rest of the county, at least the people that live on other lakes in their county, are kind of watching to see how this kind of plays out, with boaters recognizing those buoys and kind of allowing them to gauge how far they should be from shore. So I'm really excited to see them get implemented, and I'm hoping that it's effective enough to where we can use them in other parts of our county. But we'll see how it goes. So as far as enforcement on the lake so far this year, we've had obviously a very different type of year, given the COVID-19 crisis that's kind of been happening. If you haven't noticed, there's probably been a whole lot more activity on Hayden than you've seen in years past. And that is not unique just to Hayden Lake. That is been the kind of the standard on all the lakes in Kootenai County, to include Spokane River, Coeur d'Alene Lakes, Hauser, Twin Lakes. All of the lakes have seen an uptick in recreational use on the river and on the lakes, because there's not a lot of other things to do right now. We've also seen a huge uptick in out-of-state boaters, and Hayden Lake have seen just the same. And again, it's because our surrounding states are being a lot more restrictive than Idaho is, and so they have flooded to Idaho to do what they normally would want to do in the summertime. So a lot of what we are seeing this year is due to just some extenuating circumstances that I hope we don't have that in the future, but it is causing some more problems. So I get phone calls a lot, and I know that there's a lot of issues on Hayden Lake, and I'm not ignorant to those, but I think the steps that we're taking with the buoys to help, especially with the wake surfing, that seems to be one of the biggest concerns because of the size of the wakes and how it's creating damage against people's property and docks. We're hoping that being able to visually gauge off of those new buoys, that'll help educate the boaters that are out there and kind of push them out towards more of the middle of the lake. The other thing that I'll just kind of touch on real quick, the city of Hayden is trying to address the Honeysuckle boat launch right now as far as its constant congestion. And they're looking at some different parking scenarios, some different methods of kind of speeding up the boat launch. And they're also considering charging a much higher rate or limiting how many out-of-state boaters are permitted to use the boat launch. So that's up to the city of Hayden, but that is something that they're addressing just because of the increased amount of activity that we've seen on the lake. It's just kind of overloading our public park there. So those are some of the things that we've seen. We have been on the lake as much as we physically can be this summer. Just to kind of give you an idea of what my teams are comprised of, I've got 4 teams, so 2-man teams. One team is always at the south end of Coeur d'Alene Lake. I've got a team at the north end of Coeur d'Alene, a team on the Spokane River, and then a roving team. You guys are considered a roving lake. So you guys get to share one team for Hayden Lake, the lower end of Pend Oreille, Spirit Lake, both of Twin Lakes, and Hauser Lake and Fernan. That being said, Hayden definitely gets the most enforcement. If you look at the man hours that we've done so far this year, Hayden's received well over 200 man hours from that roving team, whereas the other lakes are still in the double digits, just because Hayden obviously is a little bit larger and just has a lot more activity on it we tend to patrol it a lot more. It's not as much as I would like. Personally, I would like to have a full-time team on Hayden every day of the week, but that's not my decision. That's just my wish. So if you have questions about maybe some of the statistics of what we've seen so far this year, I can kind of give you some of that. We've issued several citations. We've seen anything, nothing out of the ordinary as far as, we've issued citations for wake zone violations, safety equipment violations. We've had several OUIs, and those are kind of some of the basic stuff that we've seen. We've had a couple accidents on Hayden Lake already so far this year, nothing serious. And a lot of the questions that I've gotten from other associations are, well, what have you done to enforce the new commissioner's ordinance that just came out this year? And because it is new and because it's difficult to kind of relay what that new ordinance is, we've done a lot of education this year. But what we have found is a lot of the wake surfers are already well aware of what that new ordinance is. And we've been pleasantly surprised about how many of them know that there is a new law, what the distance is. They're not always going to be perfect as far as judging 300 feet from shore, because that's what the new ordinance requires if you're going to create an excessive wake. However, we've been pleasantly surprised on how much education the boaters have actually received somehow about what the new ordinance is. So we've done a lot of education when we do see those violations, which haven't been as much as we anticipated, but they have definitely still been happening. We've primarily done educational warnings on those, but if they violated the actual no wake zone, which was prior to this year, at the 200 foot, those are the people that we have cited for no wake zone violations. Any specific questions, Jeff?
I don't have any specific questions, but I urge anybody who has them to put them in, and we'll try to answer them at the end. If we don't do that in this format, maybe we have enough people we can just ask questions to.
Yeah, absolutely.
So if we move on, Greg Davison is Kootenai County Enforcement.
Can I just say something?
I'm sorry, yes.
Jeff? I would like to compliment the sheriff's deputies for their enforcement activities. I know personally 2 of our friends have been pulled over, and they were pretty shocked. So I know they've been active, and I know that they've been out there, and I'm also happy to hear that you feel like that the education efforts must be working, since a lot of those boaters know the rules. They just are having too much fun, or can't judge distance, or whatever it is. So it is an ongoing process. But yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah. My husband is saying, don't forget to also tell Justin that even though our friends were not happy to be pulled over, they were very complimentary about the way the sheriffs handled their violations. So
I appreciate that, and I do love hearing that. Just to kind of give you an idea, statistically compared to years past, this year, because of the way the weather kind of held off for a while, our season truly didn't get started until about the beginning of July.
Right.
So July 4th was really our first busy weekend. Yeah. And then unfortunately we had that terrible double plane crash in Coeur d'Alene, which consumed about 8 days for my Marine division, where all my resources were consumed by that. So really the statistics that we've seen so far out on the lake is about 5 weeks worth of work. And if you compare that to even years past, it's substantially higher than what we've even been able to accomplish in the years past. So when we look at citations, hours on the water, warnings, and boat inspections, our numbers are actually quite high, which is great. And I kind of add that into, I think, why the boaters are being a lot more educated, at least with the new ordinance.
Okay, now we'll try to move on.